Hello friends, welcome to my channel, and in the today's session we are going to discuss about the anatomy of the stomach. In the previous video we have discussed about the anatomy of the inguinal canal. So in today's session we are going to look at the anatomy of stomach under following headings. We will see its location, shape, volume, the presenting parts of the stomach like the orifices, curvatures and surfaces, the internal features, how the stomach interior is divided into different parts, and we see the relations both peritoneal and visceral relations. We see the neighboring structures related to stomach, blood supply of the stomach, arterial supply and venous drainage, then lastly lymphatic drainage with nerve supply and development. So stomach, as you can see on the right side, it is the part of the GIT. It is the most dilated part of the GIT between the esophagus and the duodenum, what you can see there. And even though it is most dilated part, it is hollow. It is a hollow muscular organ because it converts the food into chyme of uniform consistency and retains the food for at least 3 to 4 hours. So it acts as a food reservoir. Being the hollow muscular organ, it acts as a food reservoir and it secretes the acid which aids in the digestion of the food. And coming to the shape, it has a oblique J shape. It is an oblique J shaped organ that you can see here, oblique J shaped organ, and sometimes the stomach will be vertical J shaped or horizontal J shaped or steer horn stomach we say, because it looks like having 2 horns, but in majority it is shaped like a oblique J letter. And you can notice here it is covered by the left side of the thoracic cage and also by the left lobe of liver, and it is related to following regions of the anterior abdominal wall: epigastric, umbilical and left hypochondriac regions. That you can see these 3 regions it is related. When you see the topography of the stomach on the anterior abdominal wall, as you already know, the anterior abdominal wall is divided into 9 regions, and you can notice these 3 regions where stomach has its surface anatomy or topography. Coming to the presenting parts of the stomach, external features, it presents 2 ends, that is cardiac orifice and pyloric orifice, or cardiac end and pyloric end, and 2 curvatures, that is lesser curvature and this greater curvature, and 2 surfaces, antero-superior and postero-inferior surface. So it is obliquely placed due to its rotation along the oblique axis during the development. You can see that is the cardiac orifice. It is a physiological sphincter, means there is no structural thickening there. It acts as a sphincter due to neuromuscular coordination, and it lies at the level of the T11 behind the left 7th costal cartilage and 2.5 centimeter to the left of the median plane. If you see the median plane here, it lies around 2.5 centimeter to the left of the median plane, and it lies deeper and less mobile. Coming to the pyloric orifice or end, it has an anatomical sphincter, means structural thickening is there. It lies at the level of L1 at the level of transpyloric plane. That's why that plane has got a name transpyloric, and it lies an ½ inch to the right of the median plane, and it is more superficial and mobile compared to the cardiac sphincter. So these are the differences between the 2 ends, cardiac end and pyloric end. Cardiac end is physiological, pyloric is anatomical. It lies at T11, pyloric at the L1. It lies an inch to the left of the median plane, whereas pyloric lies at ½ inch to the right of the median plane. Cardiac is deeper and less mobile, pyloric is superficial and mobile, and 2 curvatures. You can see lesser and greater curvatures. Lesser curvature is smaller and greater curvature is around 4 to 5 times than the lesser curvature. And the interior of the stomach, when you go to the interior of stomach, it is divided into the different parts. The cardia where esophagus meets the stomach, and if you draw an imaginary line from the cardiac orifice to the greater curvature, the area above it is called as fundus, and the part in the fundus and the line joining the incisura angularis to the greater curvature, that is called as the body, that you will see again here. Body is the largest part of the stomach. Incisura angularis is the most dependent point on the lesser curvature. So this much is the body, cardia, fundus. Pylorus again has pyloric antrum dilated part and narrow pyloric canal. So these are the parts of the interior of the stomach, and when you see the interior, you can see the temporary mucosal foldings called as rugae, which helps in the expansion of the stomach. When food enters there, you can notice here cardiac sphincter does not have any physical thickening there or anatomical thickening, whereas pyloric sphincter has this thickening. That's why cardiac orifice is physiological, pyloric is anatomical. And coming to the peritoneal relations, the stomach is a peritoneal organ and it has attachments of lesser and greater omentum along with the other ligaments. Lesser omentum is the part of the ventral mesogastrium between the liver and the stomach. It has again two parts, you can notice here. This whole thing is lesser omentum. It has a larger hepatogastric part and a smaller hepatoduodenal part, whereas the greater omentum is here. It is a broad fan-shaped fold of the dorsal mesogastrium filled with the fat containing the arterial chains, and the greater omentum covers all the abdominal organs when you open the anterabdominal wall. And you can also see some other ligaments between the stomach and diaphragm, gastrophonic, between the stomach and spleen, gastrosplenic ligament, gastrophonic and gastrosplenic. These are the part of the dorsal mesogastrium. You can notice the lesser omentum along the lesser curvature, the free margin of lesser omentum. Behind that you will see epiploic foramina, and most of the dorsal mesogastrium is in the form of greater omentum there. Once you see the anterior abdominal wall here, you can notice the anterior abdominal wall is divided into 9 imaginary regions by 2 vertical planes and 2 horizontal planes, transpyloric and transtubercular. Stomach is here, it is obliquely placed and it will come like this. So that is the location of stomach. You can notice there the surface topography, how the stomach is covered by the left part of the anterior thoracic cage, left dome of diaphragm, and on the right side left lobe of liver. Below it gives a attachment to the greater omentum. You can see greater omentum, it covers most of the parts of the abdominal organs. And once you isolate the stomach, you can see here, when you fade the other neighboring structures, you can see the stomach there, and you can see it is obliquely shaped, oblique J shape, having the anterior superior part, anterior superior surface and posterior inferior surface. You can see pyloric end is more superficial and cardiac end is deep. This is the posterior inferior surface, this is the anterior inferior surface, that is the surface. So you can remember rule of 2, it has 2 ends, 2 curvatures and 2 surfaces. This is how it is located in epigastric, left hypochondrium and the umbilical region. Pyloric orifice, you can notice there, where it will continue with the duodenum. So this is where the stomach is located, and you can notice the anterior relations there. On the right side you are seeing the left lobe of liver, left side of thoracic cage, and only this part is in contact with the anterior abdominal wall, that is called as gastric triangle. That is the only part of the stomach which is in contact with the anterior abdominal wall, gastric triangle, and this anatomy is utilized for the gastrostomy in case of putting the tube into the stomach by making an opening. Gastrostomy, stoma means opening, and it is done in case of the lower esophageal cancers or any obstruction or blockage due to any disease or growth in the GIT above the stomach. You can notice here, you are seeing the visceral relations here. In brief, you can notice there, left lobe of liver, left dome of diaphragm, thoracic cage. If you isolate these parts, these are the structures related to the anterosuperior surface. You can notice there, left dome of diaphragm, left side of thoracic cage, left lobe of liver, and below the big fan shaped fold of greater omentum covering the transverse colon. So that is what you notice in the anterosuperior surface. And as you come to the folds here, the peritoneal relations, you can see stomach is there, and it has two peritoneal folds, that is the lesser omentum and greater omentum, gastrophrenic and gastrosplenic ligaments. If you isolate these two big folds of peritoneum there, the lesser omentum is between the liver and the lesser couch of stomach, and also the first part of duodenum. The proximal half of the first part of duodenum is there attached to the lesser omentum. If you isolate these structures, you can clearly observe the attachments. Now you can see the lesser omentum is there extending between the liver and stomach. It has two parts, hepatogastric part and hepatoduodenal part. This is hepatoduodenal part, this is hepatogastric part, and you can see most of the greater couch of stomach is giving attachment to the dorsal mesogastrium, that is forming the greater omentum. Remaining part of the dorsal mesogastrium, it forms the gastrosplenic ligament, and attaching to the diaphragm is gastrophrenic. So these are the peritoneal relations you are noticing. And once you open the anterabdominal wall, you are noticing the big fan shaped fold of peritoneum filled with fat. This is entire thing is greater omentum. Once you take out the greater omentum, you are seeing the coils of the intestine. So greater omentum is acting as a curtain to cover the other parts of the GIT there. You can see the small intestine suspended by the fold of the peritoneum called as mesentery here. And once you take out the coils of intestine, you are noticing the colon there, that is the ascending colon, and here you can notice the transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon. Basically the colon forms the framework in which the coils of a small intestine lie, just like the photo frame. And you can see the part of the greater omentum between the stomach and transverse colon is called as gastrocolic ligament. And once you reflect this part, you can notice on the posterior side of it, you will see the attachment of the transverse colon, and here you can notice that is the left lobe of liver overlapping the anterosuperior surface of the stomach. You can notice here is the stomach, lesser curvature, fundus, and greater curvature. You can notice it is oblique J-shaped. So this is where you are seeing the stomach, and here you are noticing the diaphragm there. So stomach is located in the three regions. Here they have removed the left lobe of liver to have the clear observation of the cardiac end. And when you have the surface topography, the stomach is here, having the two ends, two curvatures and two surfaces. You are seeing it through the intra-abdominal wall, and when you isolate, it is like this. You can notice that is the cardiac orifice, and this one is pyloric orifice. And as you notice here, you can see the greater curvature, pyloric antrum and canal is there. You can notice the two curvatures, that is the greater curvature, and that is the lesser curvature. And you can notice the cardiac orifice, pyloric orifice, lesser curvature and the greater curvature. And you can notice here, this is the antero superior surface. Posteriorly you will see postero inferior surface, and you can notice the part of the stomach above the imaginary line extending from the cardiac orifice to greater curvature. This is fundus. This much is the body, pylorus. Again, pylorus is divided into pyloric antrum and pyloric canal. So these are the parts of the interior of the stomach that you are noticing here. And as we see the interior, you will come to notice the different folds, because the stomach is the part of GIT having 4 layers from inside to outside: mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa and serosa. You can notice here the fundus part, and once you see the interior, you can notice the mucosa. Inner mucosa is there, inside to outside. You can see some folds along the lesser curvature. This is the stomach, and here you can notice the outer serosal layer is there, inner mucosal layer, and you can notice the two sphincters. Those are the temporary mucosal folds called as rugae, which help in the expansion. You can see this is a cardiac sphincter. There is no anatomical thickening or structural thickening. That's why it is called as a physiological sphincter. You are just seeing the cardia, where the esophagus continues with the stomach. And when you see the pyloric part, here you can see the thickenings here. You can see a thickening here. This is the anatomical sphincter there, whereas the cardiac sphincter is physiological. It is regulated by the neuromuscular coordination. You can see the rugae entering into the lumen of the pyloric orifice. So these are the external features what you are seeing in the stomach. And along the lesser curvature, you will see the attachment of lesser omentum. And once you go from the intra-abdominal wall, you can see there, this is a lesser omentum fold of the ventral mesogastrium between liver and stomach, liver and duodenum. This is the hepatogastric part, and you can notice there it is filled with fat and has the neurovascular structures. You can see this much is the lesser omentum, and here you can notice the hepatoduodenal part. Here will be epiploic foramina. This is the free margin of the lesser omentum, free margin. And if you take a sagittal section into the lesser omentum, behind that you will see lesser sac or omental bursa, which is formed due to the 90-degree rightward rotation of the stomach during development. It lies behind the stomach, liver, lesser omentum and greater omentum. You can see there. So this is where you are seeing the greater omentum covering the coils of intestine and colon. The greater omentum is filled with fat and also the neurovascular structure. It is called as the policeman of the abdominal cavity. because of its protective function. It is filled with fat and macrophages, providing the immunity to the abdominal cavity. You can see how it is suspended from the greater curvature there. And when you reflect the greater momentum, you can see the part of the transverse colon is attached there. You can see there, when you reflect the greater momentum, you can see the coils of the transverse colon, or the part of the transverse colon is reflected there. It is attached to the posterior layer of the greater momentum. As we have already seen, the part between the stomach and transverse colon, part of the greater momentum between the stomach and transverse colon is called as gastrocolic ligament. And if you make an opening in the gastrocolic ligament, it will also enter into the lesser sac. You can notice there, you are going into the lesser sac. And coming to the visceral relations, we have seen the paternal relations. Already we have seen the structures related to the antero-superior surface of the stomach. Just again, let's revise that. You can see left lobe of liver, left part of the thoracic cage, left dome of diaphragm, below transverse colon, and the area between these parts is called as gastric triangle. Gastric triangle. This anatomy is utilized to make the gastrostomy, an opening in the stomach, in case of the obstruction of the lower esophagus. And you will also see one more space here, the tympanic space, because this is covered by the left side of the dome of diaphragm with the base of the left lung. This tympanic quadrangular space is called as Traube space. Usually it is tympanic on auscultation, indicating the air, and it will be dull in case of left-sided pleural effusion involving the costodiaphragmatic recess. So these are the things you see in the anterior superior surface. And coming to the posterior surface, the structures related to the posterior inferior surface of the stomach are called as stomach bed. Immediately behind the stomach, what you see is lesser sac, then body of pancreas, then left crus of diaphragm, left suprarenal gland, left kidney, spleen and torsio-splenic artery, and part of transverse mesocolon. Not transverse colon, fold suspending the transverse colon is called as transverse mesocolon. So these structures form the stomach bed. You have seen the structures forming the base of the mammary gland as mammary bed. So here, structures on which the stomach lies is called as stomach bed. So here in this you can see, notice the gastric triangle, anterior lobe of left lobe of liver, left part of thoracic cage, and here you can see the greater momentum. This is how you see the stomach when you open the intra-abdominal wall. And when you reflect the stomach by cutting along the greater curvature, you are going to see the structures forming the stomach bed. The body of pancreas, torsio-splenic artery, left kidney, left suprarenal gland, part of spleen and transverse mesocolon, and also left crus of diaphragm. So these together called as the stomach bed. That is very important. And which structure lies immediately behind the stomach? Lesser sac. Remember that. Lesser sac lies immediately behind the stomach. So these are the stomach bed, and this is one more view where the stomach has been removed entirely here. You can notice the left kidney, left suprarenal gland, left crus of diaphragm, body of pancreas, and here you can see the spleen, torsio-splenic artery. So this is the anterior view after the removal of the transverse colon and stomach. You can see the C-shaped duodenum there, and this is the horizontal section. You can see here the cavity of the stomach, and here you can notice the lesser sac immediately behind the stomach. Then you are seeing the body of the pancreas, and here will be a splenic artery, spleen, the gastric surface of the spleen, left kidney, and left crus of diaphragm. Above the left kidney you are going to see the left suprarenal gland. So these are some visceral organs along with the sac, lesser sac. They form the stomach bed, and you can notice here the greater omentum is attached along the greater curvature. This is the first part of duodenum, pyloric. So coming to the animation, here we again try to see the visceral relations more in detail, and when you take out the stomach you will notice the structures forming the stomach bed there. But you can notice here with the stomach you can try to see the structures forming the stomach bed. You can notice here the pancreas is there, body of the pancreas. You can notice the tortuous splenic artery going to the spleen. You can notice there, that is the left crus of diaphragm. Here you can notice left crus of diaphragm, left suprarenal gland, left kidney, and you can see tortuous splenic artery going along the upper border of the pancreas. The splenic vein runs along the posterior surface of the pancreas, and you can notice the greater omentum covering the transverse mesocolon there. Transverse mesocolon is forming the stomach bed. There you can see the spleen there, the green colored blinking structure. The gastric surface of spleen is related to the stomach, forming stomach bed. You can notice if you isolate all these structures without stomach, you can see the pancreas, specifically body of the pancreas. But what lies immediately behind the stomach is lesser sac. There you can see splenic artery, splenic vein. Splenic vein runs along the posterior surface of the pancreas. You can notice there. You can notice the spleen here, the hemolymphoid organ. That is the left suprarenal gland, left kidney, and here you can see left crus of diaphragm, left crus of diaphragm. So remember, these structures are forming the stomach bed. Why it is called a stomach bed? Because stomach lies on these structures. Which structure lies immediately behind the stomach? Lesser sac. Remember that, lesser sac, and all these organs, vessels and folds, they form the stomach bed. That is what you are noticing here. So that's about the visceral relations. Coming to the blood supply, being the derivative of the foregut, the stomach is supplied by the branches of the celiac trunk. So left gastric artery is the principal artery coming from the celiac trunk, whereas the right gastric artery is a branch of common hepatic artery, and you can see the common hepatic artery gives gastroduodenal, which gives right gastroepiploic artery there. And you can also notice the other branches. The celiac trunk is here giving left gastric, splenic, and common hepatic. Common hepatic gives right gastric, and gastroduodenal gives left gastroepiploic, right gastroepiploic. Splenic artery gives left and also gives short gastric branches. So the stomach is derived from foregut. That's why it is supplied by the artery of the foregut, that is celiac trunk, lying at the level of the T12, coming from the abdominal aorta. If you notice here, just behind lesser omentum, you are noticing the celiac trunk with its respective branches. You can notice that is celiac trunk, branch of abdominal aorta at the level of T12. It gives 3 branches. First one is the left gastric artery. This is the principal artery of stomach. Then torsosplenic artery and a common hepatic artery. You can notice that torsosplenic artery because it supplies spleen, and spleen moves with respiration. That's why it is tortuous. So whenever the organ is in motion, say coronary artery and this splenic artery, they are all tortuous. That is common hepatic. Right gastric, left gastric, splenic and common hepatic. These are the 3 branches of celiac trunk. You can notice. And common hepatic gives 3 branches: proper hepatic, and it gives gastroduodenal. The right gastric come from proper hepatic. You can notice the right gastric come from the proper hepatic artery, and it runs along the lesser curvature and anastomose with the left gastric artery within the lesser omentum. Whereas along the greater curvature, you will see the branch of splenic artery, that is the left gastroepiploic artery, which anastomose with the branch of the gastroduodenal running behind the first part of duodenum. It gives the right gastroepiploic artery, and this splenic artery also gives some short gastric branches which supply the fundus of the stomach. You can notice there. If you observe, the splenic artery does not supply the stomach directly. It gives 2 branches, short gastric and left gastroepiploic. You are seeing the anastomose between the left gastric artery and right gastric artery in the lesser omentum, and anastomose between the epiploic arteries in the greater omentum. So that will tell you about the functions of these peritoneal folds. They provide this pathway to the neurovascular bundles there. As you see the abdomen after removing the stomach, here you are noticing the abdominal aorta. This is celiac trunk. You are noticing the diaphragm here. Celiac trunk is coming from the abdominal aorta at the level of T12, and after coming there, it is giving the diaphragmatic branches also. It is giving the diaphragmatic branches, and then it gives the 3 branches. Left gastric, that is the left gastric branch, which runs along the lesser curvature of stomach, and here you can see the torsosplenic artery, common hepatic artery. These all are branches of the celiac trunk, branch of abdominal aorta at the level of T12. So you can notice the splenic artery, which is running along the upper border of the pancreas. Tortuous course it has. You can notice here how it is running towards the spleen, and that is the spleen in the left hypochondrium under the left dome of diaphragm, one of the structures forming the stomach bed. You can notice the spleen is here, kidney, suprarenal gland, pancreas, splenic artery and transverse mesocolon. These are the structures forming the stomach bed, and as you can see the arterial supply of the stomach there. You can notice the celiac trunk, left gastric artery, common hepatic and the splenic artery running along the upper border of the body of the pancreas. That is what you are noticing here. Here you can see the transverse mesocolon attached to the anterior border of the body of the pancreas. So these are the arterial branches, and as you go here, the common hepatic artery, it is giving the proper hepatic branch, gastroduodenal branch, and also right gastric branch. The hepatic artery is there. That is the gastroduodenal artery. The name itself implies that it supplies both the duodenum and the stomach. That is the bile duct, common bile duct, that is the portal vein, in front of which the hepatic artery is there. If you see the liver, you can see the hepatic artery is dividing into two branches, right and left. This is portal vein entering the porta hepatis of the liver. You can notice there the proper hepatic is giving the right gastric artery. Here is the left gastric artery. They form the anastomosis along the lesser curvature of the stomach. And right gastroepiploic artery is a branch of the gastroduodenal, whereas splenic artery gives the left gastroepiploic artery. So this is the arterial supply of stomach. The duodenum is reflected there. If you see the duodenum in the anatomical position, the gastroduodenal artery runs behind the duodenum. It runs posterior to the first part of duodenum. That is what you are noticing there. So this is the arterial supply that you are seeing in the dissected specimen after removing the stomach, lesser omentum and the left lobe of liver. If you keep the stomach, then you can notice the arterial arcade there, left, right and left gastroepiploic arteries here along the lesser curvature, the right and left gastric arteries, and they form plexus in the mucosa, submucosa, and supply the stomach along the lesser and greater curvature. You can notice there, once you take out the fat from the, this is along the lesser curvature in the lesser omentum. You can see the branches coming from the anastomosis here. The branches are coming there from the anastomosis between the right and left gastric arteries. So remember, the arterial supply of the stomach, it has the left gastric artery, right gastric artery, left gastroepiploic, right gastroepiploic, and short gastric branches. These are very important, arterial supply and distribution and formation of plexus in understanding the pathogenesis of the gastric ulcers. Coming to the venous drainage, the veins usually follow the arteries. The left and right gastric veins directly drain to portal vein, which is formed by the supramesenteric vein and the splenic vein. The right gastroepiploic vein drains into supramesenteric, left one to splenic. The short gastric also drain to splenic. So these are the splenic and supramesenteric are the formative tributaries of the portal vein. So right and left gastric vein directly drain to portal, right gastroepiploic into supramesenteric, short gastric and left gastroepiploic into splenic vein, which itself is involved in the formation of portal vein behind the neck of the pancreas. You can notice here the venous drainage pattern. You are seeing the veins here. This is the left gastric vein, right gastric vein directly into portal vein. This is the splenic vein, right and left gastric veins, that is splenic vein. What you are seeing highlighted in pink are the formative tributaries of the portal vein. This is the right gastroepiploic vein draining into superior mesenteric. You can notice venous drainage here. As you go along the upper part of the greater curvature, you are noticing the left gastroepiploic vein and short gastric vein which drain into splenic vein. You can notice there. That is a splenic vein. Splenic vein runs along the posterior surface of the pancreas. The splenic artery runs along the upper border of the body of the pancreas. Remember that. The vein and artery have different course. That is the portal vein entering into the porta hepatis of the liver. So portal vein carries the metabolic end products to the liver. Coming to the lymphatic drainage. So stomach is divided into 4 zones, 1, 2, 3, 4. The lymphatics from the area 1 drain to left gastric nodes, 2 to right gastroepiploic nodes. In the area 3, the pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes, and from the pylorus they directly drain into right gastric nodes and finally into celiac nodes, which ultimately drain to thoracic duct, the largest lymphatic channel of the body that carries, it drains the entire body except the right part of the head and neck and upper limb thorax. You can notice there all the lymph is finally going to the celiac and hepatic lymph nodes, from there into the thoracic duct. Coming to the nerve supply, it has both parasympathetic and sympathetic nerve supply. The anterosuperior surface is supplied by the left vagus, whereas the posterior surface is supplied by the anterior surface is supplied by left, posterior is by the right, because during development it undergoes rotation. Vagus nerves are sensory and secretomotor, whereas sympathetic it is derived from the T5 to T9, concerned with the vasoconstriction, closure of the pyloric orifice. And here the vagus is divided into hepatic and gastric branch and pyloric, and they supply the parietal cells having the secretomotor fibers. That is called as nerve of Laterjet. They are resected in case of highly selective vagotomy to treat peptic ulcer to avoid the secretomotor function. You can notice here it has the left vagus going to hepatic, gastric branch and pyloric branches, and it divides like a crow feet, pes censorinus, nerve of Laterjet, whereas the posterior surface is supplied by the right vagus. Coming to the histology, there are different histological features both in fundus and pylorus. In the fundus, pit is smaller, duct is longer. In pylorus, pit is longer, duct is smaller. And in the fundus, you will see the different cells like mucous neck cells, surface lining cell, parietal cell, which is secreting the HCl, chief cell, which is basophilic and secreting the enzymes. So gastric glands are different in fundus part and pyloric part. The pylorus is having more the mucus glands to neutralize the acidic contents of stomach before entering the duodenum, because the duodenum has the pancreatic enzymes which become active in the alkaline medium. So that is about the histology, what you are noticing there. And you can see the nerve supply here. Again, nerve supply, if you notice, you can see the left vagus dividing into the gastric branch and hepatic branch, and this is how they divide, like a crow feet, pes censorinus. It also gives pyloric branches. Left vagus supplies the anterior surface, right supplies the posterior surface. and these vagal branches divided into truncal branches and highly selective branches supplying the parietal cell, secreting the acid. That's why they are divided in case of highly selective vagotomy to control the symptoms of the ulcer. So this is the nerve supply you are seeing. It is supplied by both parasympathetic and sympathetic. Now coming to the development, as I already told you, the stomach develops from the foregut. Foregut is the part of the definitive gut tube. It has a prepharyngeal part and postpharyngeal part. The stomach develops from the caudal part of the postpharyngeal part of the foregut, where the foregut forms the fusiform dilatation that you can notice here, having the anterior border and posterior border. And if you take a transverse section here, the definitive gut tube is suspended only by the dorsal mesentery. The entire definitive gut tube is suspended only by the dorsal mesentery from the posterior abdominal wall. That is the dorsal mesentery through which the neurovascular bundle enters and supplies the definitive gut tube. But the foregut part has both dorsal mesentery and ventral mesentery. So with the development of stomach, it is called as dorsal mesogastrium and ventral mesogastrium. So initially stomach develops from the caudal part of the foregut as a fusiform dilatation, and the ventral mesogastrium and dorsal mesogastrium, it undergoes 90-degree clockwise rotation or rightward rotation, so that the anterior border becomes the right border, posterior border becomes left border. This is the attachment along the anterior border, which is forming the future lesser curvature of the stomach, and the left surface becomes the anterior surface. That's why it's separated by left vagus. That is the posterior border, becoming the future greater curvature, and the right surface becomes posterior surface. That's why posterior surface of the stomach is separated by right vagus. So it has a developmental pattern, and as you can see here, as the stomach undergoes the 90-degree rotation, there is development of the lever in the ventral mesogastrium, dividing it into three parts, 1, 2 and 3. The part between the anterior abdominal wall and liver, it will form falciform ligament. Part between the liver and stomach, it forms lesser omentum, and part surrounding the liver forms the peritoneum of the liver. So, and in the left layer of the dorsal mesogastrium, you will see the development of spleen, a mesenchymal mass. The liver enlarges in size and attached to the diaphragm, where we call it as bare area of liver. It does not have any peritoneal covering there, and converting the right sac into a omental bursa, or we say lesser sac. So lesser sac lies behind the liver, lesser omentum, stomach, greater omentum, and here you will see the pancreas, the retroperitoneal structure. So this is how, because of the rotation of the stomach, 90-degree rotation, it occurs along the longitudinal axis, anteroposterior axis, and also oblique axis. You can notice there how the lesser sac is limited entirely by the lesser omentum and greater omentum due to rotation of the stomach. The stomach also rotates along the oblique axis. That's why it has oblique J shape. You can notice there spleen is developing in the left layer of the dorsal mesogastrium, and when you see the same rotation from below, you are seeing here, this is the anterior abdominal wall, posterior abdominal wall, right side, left side. This is the foregut, ventral mesogastrium, dorsal mesogastrium. So foregut is the only part having the both ventral and dorsal folds, and what appears there in the ventral mesogastrium, the liver, the part of the fold between the liver and anterior falciform ligament, and part between the liver and stomach is forming the lesser omentum, and here is the free margin of the lesser omentum, and this is the epiploic foramina, and the dorsal mesogastrium between the stomach and spleen is forming the gastrosplenic ligament. Between the spleen and kidney it is forming the lienorenal ligament, and the remaining part will form the greater omentum like this. So this is epiploic foramina, free margin of lesser omentum, hepatoduodenal part, hepatogastric part. Here is the epiploic foramina. So here is the greater omentum. So this is how you are seeing the different derivatives of the ventral mesogastrium and dorsal mesogastrium. You can notice here epiploic foramina, and that is how the greater sac communicates with the lesser sac. So here it is, the greater omentum complete is there, and this whole thing, whole bursa behind the liver, lesser omentum, stomach and greater omentum is lesser sac or omental bursa. Now you can see the entire greenish structure here. This is the lesser sac. That is how the right sac of the developing peritoneum is reduced into lesser sac, because only foregut part has ventral mesentery and dorsal mesentery. You can notice there the transverse colon, how does this greater omentum drapes the transverse colon, and if you take a section here you can understand how it lies initially. You can see here the lesser omentum, first layer becomes the fourth layer, the second layer becomes the third layer, but it undergoes fusion here by the way of zygosis. The greater omentum is draping over the transverse colon, and the fourth layer of the greater omentum fuses with the upper layer of the transverse mesocolon. You can notice there. So you can notice 1, 2, 3, 4 layer. Fourth layer will fuse with the upper layer of transverse colon, limiting the extent of lesser sac. So this portion is called as gastrocolic ligament, and this is lesser sac. So this is how the development of stomach results in the formation of the lesser sac, and also changes in the layers of the greater omentum and transverse colon. Remember, the fourth layer of the greater omentum fused with the upper layer of the transverse mesocolon, and this is lesser sac, a hot water bag shaped bursa behind the stomach, allowing the expansion of the stomach, and lesser sac forms the stomach bed immediately behind the stomach. Thank you very much.